Hello everyone, welcome to our live stream, our second live stream of the year. My name is Jonathan Friedlander. I'm the head of admissions for the School of the New York Times, and with us we have Dr. Megan Groom, who I see is appropriately dressed.
For those of you returning, I am wearing my lanyard.
Yes, as well as a t-shirt.
Yes.
Of the executive staff t-shirt.
The School of the New York Times.
Maybe
I should, since I'm wearing the special t-shirt, we have not started.
We are going to just swap the camera. We're having issues with Facebook Live, so hold on one moment.
Okay.
But we are still live on Instagram. So
oh, great. Okay.
Say hello.
Okay.
So here we are, having technical difficulties.
Yes.
I mean, I could talk a little bit more about the t-shirts, but I don't think that's really what people want to hear.
I think we should keep moving forward.
Okay, I agree.
Because Instagram is
a powerful,
viable outlet in and of itself.
well, let me talk about myself then.
Okay.
Since that's, important.
Yes.
So thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
I am Dr. Megan Groom. I'm the Director of Pre-College Programs here at the School of the New York Times. So I oversee our Summer Academy in New York City and Washington, D.C. I oversee our Gap Year program and our writing workshop. So I understand, I run the academics, I run the residential life, all of those different pieces.
Correct. And I think we're still having some technical difficulties.
On our Facebook Live.
But on Instagram, we seem to be going strong. Let's just go over the agenda for this. So we're planning for this to take about 45 minutes. That will include plenty of time at the end for you to ask questions. Keep posting those questions eventually, hopefully on Facebook, as well as anywhere else where it's relevant, and we will get to as many of them as possible, but hopefully we're going to solve and speak to a lot of those things prior to that. The agenda, and pardon me looking up to my right here, but we have
our notes are over here.
We're going to do a basic introduction to Summer Academy. We will go to an admissions overview. We're going to talk about a few new courses and new programs. We're going to talk about student life, and then we will take your questions. So let's do a basic introduction to Summer Academy. Something I'll say right at the top. By the way, it seems Facebook is back. Hello everyone from Facebook. Dr. Megan Groom.
Jonathan Friedlander.
So the key things to say, so we're headed into our fourth year. This is our fourth Summer Academy. It has grown and changed exponentially. You'll see and hear about some of those changes in the next 45 minutes. Something else that I just want to reference right at the top. So our next deadline is February 11th, Monday, February 11th. That is our priority decision deadline. That is also the deadline for financial aid. And it's also the final deadline where we guarantee that there's at least some space available in all courses. At this moment, we have already passed our early decision deadline. We have hundreds of applications already in. So if you have started an application, if you were thinking about starting an application, you still have some time. But February 11th is a good date to keep in mind, and a good due date that will give you a very good chance, a better chance at least, of getting into your first choice course. And let me take this moment to also recommend to everyone, and I'll say this again later, that when you do fill out your application, please remember to not just choose your first course, but a second and third option as well, just because as we hit these deadlines, courses do fill up, and we want everyone to make sure they're choosing what's important to them.
I just want to reinforce that the financial aid deadline is this Monday, February 11th. And after that, we will not be taking any more financial aid applications. So please, if you have any thoughts about applying for financial aid, please make sure that you look at all of those different application processes and procedures, and know that that deadline is February 11th.
Yeah, and financial aid is based on both merit and need. Those are two things we take into consideration. I think there was more up there. Yeah, there we go. So also worth talking about one of our new programs right at the top, which is for the first year we're offering Summer Academy in Washington, D.C. It will be offered over 2 terms this summer. Obviously, if it's going to be in D.C., and it's the New York Times, it's going to have a political slant to it. So please be sure to look at those courses. We've already received tons of applications for the program. There's a lot less seats available in DC than there are in New York, just because there's less courses on offer. It's our first year. So if you're interested in that program, please take a look at it. Just to go over the basics of Summer Academy, which we'll be talking a little bit about some of our other programs for pre-college at the School of New York Times. Our Summer Academy is a 2-week program. There are, of course, there are journalism courses. It's not specifically a journalism program. There are, I think, 70 different courses this year on a range of topics. It's a residential program for the majority of the students who come, but there is a day student option. And the best thing you could do is go to the website, peruse the catalog, which has all the courses listed and information about each course, when they are, how much they are, all those things. So any other?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because sometimes people ask if it's covered in the New York Times, we may teach a class on it. And the way that we create new classes is that our faculty members, who are primarily New York Times journalists and staffers, they come to us with different ideas. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And they sort of pitch us different ideas, and that's how we create classes. So we have the journalism basics classes, but then we also have classes on a really wide range of topics that you would read about in the paper. We have 2 different types of classes. Is it worth talking about that?
Yes.
We have intensives and explorations. And intensives are 2 weeks that really go in depth into one particular topic. Explorations are for students who want to cover a wide range of courses or aren't necessarily sure what it is that they want to study over the summer. And that's 2 or 3 different subject matters that have some relationship to one another. And you actually get to do a module on each one. So you'll do 3 days on one, 3 days on another, and 3 days on the next one. So it's 9 total days. So those are the 2 different sort of flavors of classes that we have. And they're both very, very popular in terms of the types of class, the offerings of the classes.
Yeah, and we've often had students who, in the first year they're doing it, they take an explorations course, they want to take on a few different more subject matter points, discover what they like, and then they come back the following year, maybe take an intensive that is doing a deeper dive on either one of those topics, although sometimes a completely new topic. We're going to go a little bit more into some of the highlighted courses, especially for this year, but I do want to do an admissions overview. Thank you. Yes, we have as our first point that the due date for the priority decision deadline.
Yeah, pop quiz. When is the priority decision deadline?
That's correct. It's
That's
February,
right.
It's February 11th.
Monday.
Yes.
February 11th.
Well done.
Pop quiz 2. When is the financial aid deadline? That's right.
Correct.
It is.
Okay.
Yes. It's. Thank you, Dan. It is Monday,
February 11th.
February 11th.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
3 lanyards. Anybody who got that day.
But to go into the some of the admissions overview process, these are all things that we talked about on our first live stream. That's also available on the website. But just to keep in mind, people talk about what makes a good application. Obviously, there are the standard elements of well-written essays, of teacher recommendations or other recommendations that really feel personalized, really feel like they're written for you and are showing and reflecting your interest in why you'd be a good student and representative at the School of the New York Times. We of course look at grades, we look at standardized test scores if they're available, but most importantly we're looking at the application holistically. Rather than have that be as trite sounding as it might be, the thing that's important to us is that we are reading and feeling like you, the student, are genuinely interested in being part of this program, usually because you have found some element of the program, probably the academic element, but also where it is, what the brand means, and are able to show a real passion for those elements. We want to make sure you're interested in being here, you're going to come here, you want to meet like-minded people, like-minded students, faculty members who are very likely at the top of the game of whatever industry it is that they're a part of and the course that you're taking, and you're going to get the most out of that, and you're going to be a great contributor to the class. You're going to be someone who is there and interested and enthusiastic, and is just going to be able to get the most out of this very dense 2 weeks that I
Exhausting.
put together. As well as exhausting.
Can I make 2 points?
Yes.
Just to help you, if you find yourself writing one of your essays, and it's very general, and you're talking about how you're passionate about the music business, but you don't have any more specifics, read through the class that you're applying for, and try to write a little bit about the different points within that class. So I'm very interested in the music business. I read a couple of the instructors' articles, and here's what I find interesting about those. I also really like the sound of these field trips. I also did a service project where we did something similar to what it sounds like we're going to do on these field trips. So make your essays specific and relevant to the course, and tie it back to your own life. Can I make a second point?
Yes.
As a teacher, I would like you to be considerate of your teachers and give them plenty of time to fill out whatever it is that they need to fill out. And I don't think it has to be a teacher who sends you a recommendation. Can it be a coach, or does it have to be a teacher?
I think it can be anyone of relevance to the student.
Yeah.
So someone who's in a position to be able to make a determination about whether or not they'd be a good fit at this school.
So it could be a teacher, it could be a coach, it could be your, someone in your youth group, something like that, where you want it to be someone who can speak to you as an individual, and a sort of member of the School of the New York Times, very diverse and vibrant community.
Yeah. It should be independent, though. It should not be your brother. That would not be a good person to write your recommendation.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah, yes. One's brother, not your brother.
My brother, probably not
Probably.
relevant here, but hey, Josh.
My brother said
Yeah,
Josh,
we're
too.
good with Josh's.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
We encourage you to take those elements seriously, to take the essay question seriously. I do have a note here about submitting the required transcript, that it does not have to be official upon the initial submission. We will eventually need the official transcript, but to get the application submitted, putting in and sending us something that is an unofficial transcript will suffice for a certain amount of time. So that's a big
Just
deal.
go to your front office and ask for a transcript.
So I'm going to leave it at that for admissions. We will take more questions later if necessary. But let's transfer now to Megan. If you could talk about a few of the highlighted courses, some of the new courses, some of the new programs, whatever you think might be the most relevant, the most exciting, the most new about Summer
The most
Academy this year,
Right.
2019.
So there's 2 classes that I thought were particularly interesting. The first one was similar to our Hamilton class that we run the past 2 years, and it's called Theater New York, and it's kind of from page to stage, so looking at the whole production. And this year we've decided we're going to focus on Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. And in this class you're going to look at the whole sort of production, both as a theater critic and a cultural critic. So what does this mean in the New York City theater landscape? But then also, what does Harry Potter mean in sort of the cultural landscape? And you're going to be analyzing it not just as a theater production, but you're going to be looking at through the lenses of race, history, theater, and then of course sort of fandom culture. The second one is
As part of that course,
do you have to have a Pottermore sign on?
I don't understand the reference.
Okay.
Do you actually go see the play?
Yes, you actually go see the play.
Great, yes, both parts.
Yes. Yes, you do. And I believe in the Hamilton class you also go to see
You go see Hamilton.
Hamilton. Yeah, we would hate to talk about a topic completely abstractly.
Yeah.
Right?
Just don't want to assume.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks. And then, how many sneakers are we going to buy people in our streetwear class then?
Well, why don't you tell us?
Okay, it was a good question. So we're also going to be running a class called Limited Edition Streetwear, and it's going to focus on using New York City as an entryway into the world of streetwear. Excuse me. Students are going to explore the business trends, people, and ethos that make up sort of the local, what is it called, hype market? What was the phrase?
Yes.
Hype fashion market.
High fashion market.
Hype fashion market.
Exciting.
Yeah. And maybe you're a parent and you don't really understand why your kids are obsessed with sneakers. There's a couple of really good articles in the Times talking very specifically about why sneakers are both their own market and then why it matters. And John Caramonica, who we work with, wrote a great piece about, I think, $750 Balenciaga sneakers. It's helpful to understand what the young people are talking about today.
What's the most expensive pair of sneakers you own?
That I own?
Yeah, how much do they cost?
Oh, is this about Parks with Claws?
No, it's about sneakers. I'm just scared it's not a world of...
Sneakers are not my thing. But
I read the articles,
I have read the articles trying to explain why sneakers are a thing, both economically and from fashion.
Curious about this course.
It's going to be a great class.
Great.
So we also have a couple of our returning favorites. We have our Writing the Big City course, which is one of our most popular classes. And what it's going to do is it's going to really help you think like a reporter. And if you're going to do interviews, create informative and entertaining content, and really go into New York City and interview people, talk to people, and observe. So you're going to focus both on the writing aspects, but then also the journalism aspects, and really go deep into New York City. It's a great class, and our faculty, this is where we put some of our superstar faculty are teaching this class. That's one of our intensives. One of our explorations that we're bringing back is a class called Inside the UN, Law and Journalism. So those are the three modules. Inside the UN is one, journalism in another, and law is the third. And what we're really looking at is how these large systems work within the context of sort of systematic thinking and global thinking about the world. So you're going to focus not just on these three pieces, but also how do you think about the world as these like large, global, very messy systems as they exist.
Great.
So
why don't we do a little bit? I think there's more to say about some elements of Summer Academy, but people are always asking questions about. They understand what's happening during the classes, but it's a residential program. Students are living in New York City.
Right.
So look, all this information, of course, is available on the website. You can read about it. But what are the key points you'd like people to know about sort of the rest of the program?
Right. So I think what's interesting to me is that Summer Academy is the academic piece, and that's incredibly important. But sort of the dorm life, the social aspects of it, the people from around the world that you meet, exploring New York City together, that is really just as important of a program. So we want to really provide a safe and exciting way to explore the city, and also to take your time up when you're not in your classes. So one of the first ways that we do that is we organize students by what we call color groups. And these are going to be relatively small, somewhere between 18 to 20 groups of students who are about the same age. And they are structured into groups that they can go and do different activities with. So we may go to Central Park for the night. You're going to go with your color group. You have 3 RAs that are assigned to you. And this really provides a set of sort of social activities after class. And it's a great way for students to meet and bond with students who are not in their academic class. Another way is we think a lot about how the day is structured outside of academics. So academics are typically 9 to 4. There's a little bit of variation in there, but then you have the whole rest of the time between when classes end and curfew starts. Curfew is typically at 10 o'clock. So we have a speaker series. We have a couple of big social events. We go on a harbor tour of New York City. And then we have some days where you are allowed to, if you have permission, to check off of campus and go and explore the city on your own. You always have to go with a group of people to explore the city. We also have, in addition to that, we have a lot of on-campus activities, whether it's, we had a big Fortnite club last year. We also, we will again be watching the World Cup like we did last year. We'll be watching the Women's World Cup. And we also have all sorts of academic supports that we provide for students. Outside of the classroom, students are housed within the dorms, and you are typically given assigned to a roommate. And you're assigned to a roommate based on gender identity and age. If you have any questions or concerns about that, please let us know. Within the dorms, we have dining hall options. It is different in New York and DC, but as part of your room and board, we do provide 3 meals a day. We always get a lot of questions about different allergies and dietary restrictions. Please let us know on your forms. There's plenty of places to fill that out. But if you have any concerns, we regularly work with families and students who have very severe allergies or very specialized dietary needs, and we're happy to accommodate those.
Megan, I just got the signal that people only want us to talk for 5 more minutes before we go to questions.
Impossible.
So we have a few things to cover. Why don't we briefly go through staff and safety, and then maybe we could talk about some of the other elements of some things on offer at pre-college. So do you quickly want to do staff and safety?
Yep.
Great.
So within the dorms, we have residential staff that is available and on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the entire time. We have a curfew. Students have to check in at 10 o'clock. With their RA. The RA goes and says hello to everybody and make sure that you're in your room. And we also have a lot of rules and regulations so that you can check off campus if you're allowed to do that. But we want to do it in as safe way as possible. So students have to leave with other students. They can be no more than 4 hours away from campus. They have to let us know where they're going, who they're going with, and when they're going to return. We both check them out at the welcome desk, and then we also use a software called Boardingware, and there's a parent view and a student room. And also parents are allowed to submit what we call a special leave request, which does allow students, if it is approved, to do things like go home for the weekend if they need to. And all of these rules and regulations are detailed in our admitted student handbook, and we have a lot of information there. But if you have any concerns about the idea of your student being in New York City and going out with friends, please let us know. New York City is the safest big city in the United States, and Washington, D.C. Is also a very safe city. So we feel very comfortable about the rules and regulations and our ability to keep kids safe and happy in New York
Have
City.
we said which campuses that we use? Have we mentioned that?
We use Fordham University down at Lincoln Center, which is on the Upper West Side of New York City. And then in Washington, D.C., we will most likely be at George Washington University at the Foggy Bottom campus, which is, I think, 2 blocks from the Washington Bureau and right downtown in D.C.
So before we get to questions, I'd like to follow up because I know we have people tuning in who have an interest in our upcoming Gap Year program as well as the writing workshop. Something I want to say about the Gap Year program is we're going to talk very briefly about it. Feel free to ask questions, but we are going to have an open day specifically for Gap Year coming up in the middle of February. There's also going to be an open day, and by the way, these are at the New York Times. So there's also going to be an open day for Summer Academy. So go to our website, please RSVP to that. Space is limited for both events, so you should do that.
New York and DC for Summer
Yeah,
Academy.
there will be one in DC in March,
Yeah.
but the New York one is going to be in February, and again, that's for both Summer Academy and for Gap Year. So let's do Gap Year first. Megan, if you want to give us an overview of our upcoming Gap Year program.
Sure. So a gap year is for students who want to take a pause between graduating from high school and then somewhere within their early college career. And the idea is you're going to come and spend a semester with us in New York City. You're going to have a academic experience where you're going to be exploring the different sections of the paper. You're not just going to look at sort of the basic content knowledge that's going to be within an article, but you're going to work with faculty to sort of understand how the big stories at the New York Times, who was part of them, the events that were part of them, really with an insider perspective. And at the same time, we're going to be looking at the different career tracks that sort of come in and out of those different stories. We also focus on student life, and we have an academic and advising team that helps students think about not just how to be successful in college, but also in careers. And like all of our programs, we use New York City really as our campus. So you get to live and explore New York City like a New Yorker.
I think it's also worth mentioning that the classes, especially in this first year, will be fairly small, and that financial aid is available. So you should email us, contact us, look at the website for more information about that. Writing workshop. Tell us about writing workshop.
So writing workshop, I know a lot of you are high schoolers. Writing workshop is in the spring. It's going to be 7th and 8th graders all the way up through 12th graders. It is an intensive week of learning how to write using our writing process, drawing inspiration from journalistic writing techniques. It takes place here at our offices in Midtown Manhattan. And not only do you spend time here working with the instructors, but you also do a lot of different field experiences and sort of reporting and doing writing from all around New York City. It will take place in March. I believe it's March 15th. Yeah, sorry, I'm not totally sure.
No, it's
March
later.
25th.
March, thank you, March 25th through March 29th. We will also be offering it in August as well.
Yes.
Um,
And finally, I just want to do a quick plug for we're about to announce our Parents Exploration Program. I know we have parents who are probably watching this with their kids. We actually are offering a small program for parents. It's in no way involved with the kids or the students, so it's two completely separate programs. But maybe while you're in New York, this could be something you're interested in. Part of the money, all the proceeds actually go back to scholarship funds for students for future summer academies. So we'll be releasing that information soon. If you're interested, please email us, ask us about it, and we can give you a preview of what that is about. On that note, let's shift to the questions.
Yeah.
I feel like the first question is almost a gotcha question.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the answer is.
I believe you said there were about 70.
I've used that. So the question is, how many courses are there total? How many spots per class? A little math going on here, which I'm not appreciative of. We have used the number 70 courses, and I think it's safe to say about 20 students per course.
Right.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, but it depends on the class. Some of the classes are smaller
Yeah.
and more of a seminar style, and some are about 20. We do maintain 3 instructional staff in the class. So you're going to have a lead instructor, a teaching assistant, and then an academic assistant who is going to be in the class at all times. And some of the classes repeat, so we'll offer it in multiple sections, and then some classes are offered only once a section. And I just want to reinforce the fact that after this priority deadline, we will begin to close classes.
Yes, after February 11th, based on submits and accepted students, there will be less availability. There's still time to apply, but it's going to be much harder.
Yeah, you'll start to see on the website, if you don't get your application in, you'll start to see courses closed.
And it will continue to get more competitive as well.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Another one I'm not completely comfortable with. How is grade eligibility determined for each class?
Like, how do we know to put
I
9th
feel like-
and 10th graders or 9th, 10th, 11th grader or something
Sure.
like that?
Yes.
It's just going to be basically what some classes, like our explorations, will offer a 9 and 10th grade section, and then we'll offer an 11th and 12th grade section. And then some of them are 10th, 11th, 12th, and some are 11th and 12th. And usually that has to do with sort of the rigor of the class. And really, a 9th grader, and remember, if you're a rising 9th grader next summer, you can apply for, a 9th grade slot. That person's going to be different from a maturation, but also an academic perspective than a 12th grader. So we try to put the older students together and then the younger students together.
Great. So there are a few here. I think I could take a couple of them. So when our early admissions results release, so if it's early, it's the early deadline, then we're talking about the applications we already have. We're in the middle of the review period, and those decisions should be going out in the first 2 weeks of February. Hopefully on the sooner part rather than the later, but we're giving it that amount of time. I see a couple of questions that can be sort of combined into one. One is, do you need to have really good grades to be accepted? Really good grades being a little vague to me. And also, how competitive is the program? So really, we're not sort of going out of our way to look to eliminate individuals from the program. I think that it is competitive. There are people who apply who don't get into the program. That number has gone up each year. We expect it will go up again this year simply because we're going to get way more applications than we have spots available. The best thing I could say is, regardless of grades, of course it does help to have good grades, but regardless of grades, the best thing you could do is really put passion and clarity into those essays that you're writing. Make sure you have a good recommendation. Put forward all the reasons why you would be a great fit in this program. Those things can really go a long way to proving to us that there really is something here where you're going to be able to get something that maybe you're not currently getting in school. And those things are really important to us. So I would just encourage you, if you feel like your grades aren't quite up to standard, then just to make sure you're putting all the effort you can into those elements. Okay, very specific. So would a student be allowed to attend religious services off campus, or do you have facilities for the like on campus?
So students, if they need to leave campus outside of the normal off-campus hours, the parents can just put in a special leave request. So say you need to go on a Saturday to services in the morning, your parents would just simply put in a leave request stating where you were going, when you were going, who you were going with, and what you were going to do. It's very simple. We do not offer any sort of religious services on campus, but there are certainly a plethora of different options right in the Lincoln Center neighborhood. And it's very common that students do that.
So let's just keep going. We answered this before, but I think it's worth reiterating. Where are your campuses in New York and DC? As you said, in New York, it's the Fordham University campus on the Upper West Side. It's right near Lincoln Center. And for Washington, D.C., it is the George Washington University campus in Foggy Bottom. Anything else?
Yeah, and then our writing workshop and our gap year is in Midtown, on the east side of Midtown, kind of close to Rockefeller Center.
Yeah. Does every class have a writing component regardless of topic?
Every class is going to have what we think of as a capstone project or a synthesis assignment. And basically what that means is you're going to be putting together some sort of final project. It may be written or it may be sort of a podcast or something like that. It depends on the class. But even in like a class like our on-camera personality class, you're still going to be writing scripts. We do have students who come to us and have special education requirements, and we're more than happy to work with students around the accommodations that they need for that. But a lot of our classes do have writing in it, though that's not the emphasis.
What do you look for in applicants? What tips do you have for new applicants? I feel like we've addressed this. Not to be sort of simplistic about it, I would say. A tip is apply, get it in by the deadline that it needs to be in by. I think people sort of procrastinate on it, they delay, they maybe come up with a self-excuse of why they think they won't get into the program. We really think we really highly recommend you should apply. You should just go to the effort to put your best foot forward. It has worked out well for many students who applied. We encourage you to do that.
I also just want people to know that we have student and parent ambassadors that are available. If you want to talk to a student who perhaps came from a similar part of the country or world that you came from, or if parents want to talk to a parent, we can facilitate those conversations. So if you do want to talk to a student, or a parent wants to talk to a parent, we'd be happy to facilitate those conversations.
How old do you have to be to attend? Are graduating seniors able to attend? So let's answer on behalf of specifically Summer Academy. Mm-hmm. For Summer Academy, you have to be going into high school. Ninth grade, a rising ninth grader, and 10th, 11th, 12th. And the answer is yes, there are programs specifically for graduating seniors, and graduating seniors will be the only students in those programs.
Right.
For our writing workshop, it is open also to rising 7th and 8th graders.
So our spring writing workshop is open to 7th graders through 12th graders. Our summer writing workshops will be for rising 7th graders and through rising 12th graders.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different summer spring.
Can you apply to both campuses? Yes, you could apply to both on the same application, and you can select multiple courses and rank them. I think the key to remember is you don't want to apply to, if you're interested in doing more than one term, you do not want to apply to more than one course in that term. So if it's term 2, you don't want to apply to both Washington, D.C. and New York if you plan on doing more than one term. There are students who do more than one term on each campus. There are students who will do one term in New York and then do one term in D.C. You are absolutely welcome to apply in that way.
Yeah, and there were students last year who did term 4 for Summer Academy and then stuck around and did the first week of the writing workshop.
Yes. What is the average class size? I think we talked about that. We said it's about 20. Do you want to add nuance to that?
No, some classes are 15, some classes are 20, but we really try to keep the faculty to student ratio, something like 1 to 8, 1 to 10.
What is a typical day like? What time does the day start and end?
Typical day.
Just a typical day.
Typical day.
Your
Typical day, you
average
wake up.
Day. Yeah.
Actually, what's funny is you wake up and you have the most spectacular view in New York City.
Yes.
Because Fordham is this kind of a skyscraper, so
Beautiful
it's a beautiful
views.
view.
Yes.
So breakfast opens around 7:30, so you can go down and eat breakfast. If you want to go for a run in the morning, we have a running club that often goes in the morning. Classes start usually between 9 and 9:30. We have different shifts. You're in your class until lunchtime. And then you have lunch, and then you have your class after lunch. So your academic day is pretty long. During that day, you may be in the classroom, but you're also going to be out and about. You'll have guest speakers, you'll go on site visits. Sometimes you spend the whole day out on a site visit or a field trip. And then you come back, and usually there is like an hour or two. Dinner starts maybe around 5. And you can go to dinner or not go to dinner, and then you have curfew until 10. For the first couple days of Summer Academy, you have sort of mandatory planned events, and those are going to be things like orientation, the scavenger hunt. We're going to take you to Central Park to hang out there. We have our speaker series, and then if you have permission to leave campus, then we start to allow people to leave campus. And again, you have to leave campus in a group, you have to tell us where you're going, all of those different pieces, and you have to be back in time. So most of the time people have about an hour of homework a night, that's our average, but often people will work well into sort of the wee hours of the morning on different assignments, and they're really driven by their love and passion for the subject.
Well, the next question was about homework assignments, and the answer was yes, there are some.
Yes, there is homework.
There's some homework assignments.
Yeah, yes, there is homework, and it's going to be related to the class. We say it's about an hour of homework a day.
What percentage of students are residential versus commuter? I'm happy to take this. It's about 90% residential, 10% what we call day students, which are also commuter students. So the vast majority are going to be residential students.
And yes, we have lots of students from New York City who stay in the dorms.
Yes. And lots of students not from New York City who stay in the dorms.
The vast majority are not from New York
That's
City
right.
who stay in the dorms.
That's right. I like to state the obvious sometimes.
Yes.
What are roommate requirements? How many people will be assigned to one room, and what amenities do the rooms include? Good question.
Roommates are matched by gender, identity, and age. And if there's a reason for you to need a single room, let us know. What are the amenities of the room? Most of the rooms are suites. So you'll have 2 or 3 people in the room itself, and then it's usually connected to another room with a bathroom. So there's sort of a suite-like setup. We have a whole bunch of RAs that are on each floor. So you always have an RA that is right there. The dorms typically are going to have also different lounges and stuff like that. So we have, there was a big Fortnite lounge last year. There was the World Cup lounge. So there'll also be common spaces. One thing I think is important to note is that once you are in for curfew, you are in your room. So we want people to do their homework and go to sleep.
Is there free time to explore New York City? And I'll combine this with the next question. How do students get around the city?
So you have a lot of free time to explore the city in terms of getting permission from your parents and then having off-campus privileges. So you have time on Sunday, the one Sunday that you're there, and then you have time after class when you don't have something going on after class. Most people stick to sort of the neighborhood around the campus. In New York City, we are right next to Central Park. We're right by the water, and there's a lot of different things that you can do. We're within walking distance of all the Broadway shows, of different theaters, movie theaters, all of those different pieces. And DC is pretty similar. So you have time to explore, and then we also plan things like Instagram walking tours, historic neighborhood tours. I believe everybody wanted to go to the Strand last year, so we will do sort of facilitated trips where our RAs will plan those types of things, and you can go. I think we did an ice cream tour last year. So yeah, people can explore the city on their own, or explore the city within the sort of facilitated activities that we do.
And getting around.
Oh yeah, you get a Metro card, which is your subway pass. And students pretty quickly, if you're not used to using public transportation, they pretty quickly realize how great the subways are and the buses are, and feel comfortable getting around. And part of that is just doing it with your class a couple of times and getting comfortable with it.
Can you explain the difference between intensives and explorations? Can you?
I can.
Great.
Next question.
What is the what is the
intensives are going to be one subject that you study throughout the entire 2 weeks that you're with us. And explorations are going to be 3 separate modules or 3 separate subjects that you study throughout the time. So the intensives are going to be for people who are just really interested in that subject, and then the explorations are often for people who want to get kind of a sampler of different courses that we have to offer.
What is the financial aid process? I'm actually just going to read because
this is from our...
it's the best way to answer it. This is also available on the site. But limited financial assistance is available, and aid is awarded. It's a combination of both need and merit. You can apply online. The link is provided in the program application. And in order to qualify, you have to submit both a complete program application and a financial aid application with all the required documents. So if you want more information about that, I recommend you directly contact the admissions office. But those are the basics.
Yeah, and we also have financial aid available for gap year, writer's workshop, and summer camp.
Yes, absolutely.
So make sure you check that out.
Yeah. So we have time for just a couple more questions. Very straightforward. Can international students apply?
Yes.
Yes.
We do not provide any assistance with visas. If you need a letter of acceptance or something like that, then we can talk about that. And there is no dress code.
Yes, we see. Yes, maybe we can use this as the last question.
Yeah.
Given your T-shirt and your lanyard, is there a specific dress code students need to know about before coming?
No. But we do expect you to, often in your class, you're going to be in professional working environments, so we do expect you to dress appropriately because you will be in people's offices. But we just encourage you to wear casual, light clothing. New York City does get quite warm. There are no sort of dress-up events that we have. The Harbor Cruise is sort of like fancy casual.
It's casual.
It's casual.
It's casual. You're on a boat.
You're on a boat. And so, but there's no dress code, but we do ask when you're in class for people to dress professionally. There is a technical dress code that is in the admitted students handbook that does go into the sort of do's and don'ts. And we do, I made a joke about my lanyard. We do require when you're on campus and most of the time that you're off campus that you wear a lanyard so that we can identify you. It's a student safety issue.
Great, thank you. I just want to take a moment to reiterate the next deadline, in case you don't remember, is Monday. February 11th for the Summer Academy. We have an upcoming deadline for gap year programs, which I believe is February 18th. So if that is, make sure you're getting your application by that point. And the last thing I'll say is, again, we have our upcoming in-person open house events coming up, one at the New York Times, which will be in February, and the other is going to be at the Times Bureau in Washington, D.C., and that will be in March. And the one for New York at the New York Times is going to have two parts to it. One is going to be for Summer Academy. You'll hear directly from our faculty. You'll meet us. Very exciting. And then we'll do another part on the same day at the New York Times for gap year programs. So if you're interested in that, I think that's certainly worth coming and checking out the people who will be there and hearing what they have to say. So thank you so much for watching. We look forward to reading your applications. And again, thanks for your time.
Thank you.